chaps.
Good
I have
evening.
put the call on record. Very good evening to all of you. Can you see now the slideshow?
Yep.
Excellent. Anthea, do you want
Yeah.
to introduce the call?
Right. Hello, everybody. We have taken a different tack this evening. We're going to let you guys develop the evening as it goes on, because what we want to do is not have a structured call, which is all about us giving to you, but we want you to tell us what you've been up to and what you foresee for 2018. Before we get into that, can we just do some acknowledgements? We're going to look at some recent developments. The first one I wanted to mention is that Charlotte and Jessica, Lara, are working in Reading, and a couple of them met recently with Alok Sharma. It's very interesting because his PA wrote to us and said, "Oh, your ambassadors have come to see Mr. Sharma," and it was all very interesting. He didn't say that he would support. So I wrote back a cheeky email and said, "Does that mean you endorse?" Right. Dawn has met her local MP, James Frith, who is an endorser, but you know, meeting an MP already endorses is still very, very valuable, because an MP can say, "I endorse," but they could then just go off and forget about it. But when they hear again and again 70-30 and more people in the area talking to them about it, they suddenly become a little bit more engaged with it and are much more likely to start working with us. Sarah's met with Stephen McPartland. Thank you for that, Sarah. Sarah and Stephen. I know that Steve McPartland hasn't endorsed it. He's been a bit of a hard nut over this, but keep at it, Sarah. Martha in Glasgow. Thank you, Martha. Your MP, Alison Thewlis. Is Alison Thewlis a supporter? I'm not sure. Not yet.
Not quite yet, but working on it.
Yeah.
I think is the...
Okay. She's also arranged a meeting with another MP on the 19th of February. And she's arranging for a screening of the documentary Resilience. That's Linda Brown, arranging to screen Resilience. Thank you. I know Sarah in Stevenage is also asking about screening that, and we're trying to find a date that works for that. Andy, hi Andy. I know you're on the call. You've sent your local MP Steve Baker an email, and I think you expressed it beautifully. I love it. Hopefully we'll get him on board. I'm not sure if Steve Baker's yet an endorser, is he? If not, we'll keep at him and get him on. And then Lara, Amanda Walsh, Linda and Rosemary and Imogen in Reading seem to be expanding their group. They've been joined by Josh Williams, who's talking to them about what the council's doing, what its structure is. So that's quite interesting, because obviously they're exploring what it is that they can do to try and get Reading looking seriously at prevention. And of course, there was a councillor in Reading that recently became a local Reading MP, and he's become an endorser. So you see, you never know when you're meeting and talking to people what will develop. I mean, that councillor, when we first met him, Sarah and I went to Reading, met him, wasn't really that interested. And then all of a sudden he becomes an MP, and hey presto, he's endorsing. Yeah. So keep at it, guys. You're doing some fantastic work. Thank you.
Right. I'm going to give you guys
it's Alex speaking.
Hi.
Alex, in just a moment, and have you got an update for us? Okay, if you have an update for us, then in just a moment we're going to come on to that. And there'll be a little space for other people with updates. So I'm just going to very briefly zip through what we've been up to. Then we'll have a few updates that we haven't mentioned, and then we'll go on to the main body of the call. So we have been doing a huge amount. We've been talking to politicians in Manchester, in Northern Ireland, in Wales, in Scotland. We've been flying up and down the country. We've been zipping off. You've been in Derry, haven't you?
Yeah, I spent 3 days there with Aidan.
Aidan's recently been also in George is up in Scotland. I've been to Manchester with George. for which, by the way, I thank you for bearing with me for our last call. I know the sound quality was not what we usually get in terms of quality, and that's because I was on a train. So
Back from Manchester.
very back from a meeting. Very grateful to you all for bearing with us on that, and a very productive meeting. Broadly, we're tilting towards this ACEs language. Just before the call started proper, I was chatting with Rob about adverse childhood experiences as a language. Has anybody on this call not heard that phrase? Adverse childhood experiences. I'd be shocked because we're talking about it more and more. Adverse childhood experiences, of which there are 10. And again, anyone who wants
10 main ones.
10 key ones, anyone who wants the reading for this, please do let me know and I'll send some stuff across. This is really important language that from the United States has really travelled. There have been new studies done in England and in Wales showing the amount of adversity in the early years and in childhood, and I think about 80 different health and mental health and well-being and economic and educational impacts. So it's another language for talking about the early years and the need for support and prevention, but it's a very powerful language, and we're tilting towards that language in Westminster as well. The second thing, oh, and by the way, Andy Burnham is likely in Manchester to host a conference in autumn, and as Anthula's just pointing out to me, if anyone hasn't seen it, there was a debate in the Scottish Parliament, no less.
It's referred to in the newsletter.
Referred to in the newsletter, thank you. It referred to in the newsletter. We're referred to in the debate. 7030 is referred to into the debate. It's amazing seeing the progress. And anyone who wants to watch that, it's well worth a watch. Then in terms of our other big shift, it is, as I say, towards Scotland. Sarah is now full-time up in Edinburgh, which is very sad for us because we don't get her lovely company, but very, very good news for Scotland because she's going to be engaging with MSPs, members of the Scottish Parliament, and local community leaders, local groups. I know there have been resilience screenings. There's some amazing new ambassadors up the other side of the wall, and it's just great what's happening up there. So, with that, on to our next slide. What about you guys? We've said some great stuff that's been going on. Have we missed anything? Do you want to share any progress? I know Alex wanted to come in, so you're welcome to, sir, or anyone else.
I can certainly share what I've been up to, Sam, if that's of any value.
Very, very, very high value.
Is that of any value, Sam?
Fire away.
Okay, sure. So, as I mentioned on the previous call, myself and George were due to meet with the deputy leader of the SNP. Unfortunately, for various reasons which aren't particularly relevant here, she wasn't able to make that meeting. But obviously, the Wave team have continued to engage with her, and it's very likely that she will eventually come on board. Myself and George are also due to meet with Jim Shannon at the DUP at the tail end of this month. Jim has been a long-time supporter of the 1001 APPGs, and obviously in terms of his support, he's virtually there already. So that will be really valuable, I know, because obviously the DUP are in government and they're able to influence the direction that certain policies may or may not go. So that's really why I'm at.
Can I also just make the point, Alex, that we have here, you're mentioning two different groups. SNP, Scottish Nationalist Party, they want to, they're very socially kind of left-wing, they're very, they want Scotland to be an independent country. Now, on the other hand, you've got the DUP, much more traditional, closer to the Tories, and very unionist. Completely different politicians, completely different ideologies, completely different walks of life. And yet they're unified by this real understanding that the early years is not about all these other political issues. It just goes to show that you can really build bridges between so many different people of different political bents.
We've currently got 14 MSPs, and the one we got today was Conservative, who said, come on, let's get on with it. Why aren't we doing more? So
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Which is it's just so amazing to hear. Come on, you guys, what have you been up to? Who'd like to share something? Thank you, Alex.
Hi, Sam. It's Linda here. I'd like to share something.
How are you doing, Linda? Lovely to hear from you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't been doing much the last few weeks because I've got a new grandson, but I'm back on board now.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Basically, I've been asked to be early years consultant. The Brighter Berkshire year of 2017 is continuing as a standalone charity, and the Newbury MP is very involved with that. So at some point, I'm hoping to get an appointment with him. They want to focus on early years as part of the whole initiative, so that's great. The local Reading Council have written a new early help policy, and I've sent them lots of stuff on attachment and parenting, and the children's lead counsellor has asked to meet with me in a couple of weeks, and everything that I proposed to Newbury Council, which is what I get paid for in a day job on attachment and parenting, is being picked up. So that's two local authorities that are really talking about attachment and parents' own adverse childhood events, because the two go hand in hand. So I feel like from a year ago, I really feel like the wheel is turning, and it's really rewarding.
And that's, I mean, at least in part, it must be the work that you've been doing, the conference that you held, all those letters, all those calls, all those unanswered in some cases. Amazing.
And as we've said before, we're continually.
Oh yeah, it's all down to me, Sam.
Thank you all for planting seeds, because they sprout at all different times.
That's right.
And I just mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were on the call at that time when I mentioned, Linda, how when Sarah and I came and met Matt Rodder, the local councillor, who's now an MP, we didn't get any joy from the emails after the meeting. But once he became an MP, he very quickly became an endorser for 70/30. So those seeds do sprout at all different times.
Linda, was there something else that you wanted to add on there?
No, I just agree with Anne Thula that sometimes you plant the seed, you get the reward later.
Yeah, and it's lovely seeing it, isn't it? The floor is whoever's wants it. Whoever's what? Yeah.
I've not massively been in action. I think for me, I can't trust myself to keep me focused. But I've had a good conversation-ish with Mick, and we've agreed to sort of double up as accountability partners, which in itself, when I say that out loud, is very refreshing for me. So I'm going to be liaising with him over the next week or two to support him in preparation for his meet with his MP on the 23rd. So I'm just feeling it's just about shaking me cobwebs off and just getting back on the pitch for me. Thanks.
And Mick, by the way, thank you for you. I know Mick, I got a really great email from Mick as well, taking up our challenge with gusto to come up with some actions. And I really appreciate that. It was a lovely email to get. So
could we just inspire you? And following on from my seeds conversation, guys, we've currently got 74 Westminster MPs and 14 Scottish MSPs. Thank you all so much. You really are amazing. Keep at it.
Yeah, no, it's really, and look, here's the next slide, guys. Oh, no, it's not. No, come on, work. Here's the next slide, guys.
That's out of date already.
Please note that this was written yesterday by Sarah. It is already out of date. That is how fast this is moving. That's how much is coming out of all these conversations.
So can I tell you what I've been doing?
Hey,
yeah.
Sarah, go ahead. Fire away. Hello?
Hello, is anyone there?
Yeah.
We got you again. Fire away.
I was just going to... Oh, okay. I went to see my MP last week. and he believes in children that he puts in place.
Sarah,
There's some politics I can give you in the background of why he's being a bit resistant. Yeah, go on. Can you not hear me?
You're very in and out.
Okay. Shall I try the phone?
Yeah, that might work.
I'll try phoning you.
Okay, brilliant. Yep. Call straight in.
Okay. I've got to look for the page.
Well, while Sarah does that, I think we'll hear from Sarah, and then we'll move on to the body of the call. Does anybody else want to pitch in while Sarah just sets up? Anything we haven't heard from you about, or something that's happened very lately, or something you're excited about, or even something you're planning?
Martha, we haven't heard from Martha. She was on the call last time as well.
Yeah, Martha, how's it going, Martha?
Hiya, can you hear me okay?
Hey. Yep.
Hey, so yeah, everything's good. I've been writing to some MSPs, and I was just wondering, should I focus on MSPs or should I be contacting MPs as well?
I mean,
all of them.
yeah, fire on all cylinders. Your MSPs will be the ones who really create change on the ground because it's a devolved issue. But we've actually got some Scottish MPs who are, really positive supporters. In fact, we've got to be careful because we've got two MSP Westminster MPs, both called Stuart MacDonald, and we have to always be careful not to mix the Stuart MacDonalds up. Because normally if you say a Stuart MacDonald SNP, that's fairly, you can go with that. But yeah, no, by all means, contact everyone. Caller 02, is that Sarah?
Hello, everybody.
Right, hello, everybody.
It is. I'm here now.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay, so
I was going to say
that I went
my
to see my MP
about 10 days ago. He's been a chair of loads of groups, all party groups that link to children, so he does really care. And he told me lots of interesting and quite shocking things about children and all sorts that's going on. He feels that as he's just been elected to a new job, which is he's the regulator of all party parliamentary groups, it might be difficult for him to sign up to what we believe. I invited him to a screening of Resilience because that's one of my plans. I would like to put that on in April. I'm waiting to hear back from George as to whether or not he was prepared to come. I think I've emailed him for the dates when I can get a room. And I've got lots of people saying that they want to come and see the film. So I'm hoping I can get recruit some people to do that. He told me some really shocking stuff. He said he talks to the police every week, my MP did. And he said, did you know that over 50% of the calls that are now called to domestic violence, the blokes, when they've done something to the woman, have all said it's because she's obsessed with her mobile phone and doesn't look after the children. I just thought that might be quite interesting. But he said 50% of the call-outs, that was what the police were telling him. And he's very much into primary prevention. The other thing I wanted to ask a question of Sam and Anthula is that just searching online, I found something that interested me, but I don't know if anyone else knows that there's a big project happening at Liverpool John Moores University. Does anyone know about that?
No.
On the ACE study. Type it in. It says adverse childhood experiences, and it says Liverpool John Moores University has been commissioned to, in collaboration with Public Health England, to undertake a study of ACEs and their impacts on the adult population. What's really interesting, because I felt a bit embarrassed, my MP said, well, we're already doing stuff in Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire has commissioned it, as have Luton Borough Council and Northamptonshire. And I feel that as a group, we shouldn't really be working on our own. We should be looking at other things that are happening. So I've looked them all up, but I haven't really got time to do hours and hours of this because so many other things to do. But I have been looking on their website and I'm very interested to see what they're doing. I was wondering if anyone else has known about it. So it's Liverpool John Moores University. It looks like it started May 2016. I would be really curious to know where in Hertfordshire this is happening. But my MP mentioned it as well, so I did feel a bit wrong-footed, by the way.
No, that's great. I mean, you know, we do find that a lot of different things are going on, and we actually leading a number of them. The fact that there's a new thing, you know, is great. It's not, you know, as a small team, as a team of people who are, you know, giving freely of your time, and in our case is rather stretched. You know, we can very much just say, look, you know, we haven't heard of that one, but great, brilliant. I think early when
will you look into it and tell us more about it then?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got it up on screen here, and thanks for pointing it out. We'll share it.
Could I just say, Sarah, thank you very much for letting us know about that. As you know, the very first ACE study was done in Wales. And then there was a smaller one done in Blackburn. In fact, we've been in touch with Blackburn. George knows them. We've been up to visit them. And of course, this one now is an English one, which was lacking. And we'd been saying for a while, you know, English ACE study would be good. So yes, thanks. We'll look into that.
Yeah, really nice one. Okay.
Well, see, the thing is, I live in hang on a minute. I live in Hertfordshire. And I share an office with Public Health England. Around the corner are all the health visitors, midwives. It would be so interesting if I had a bit more information from you and I could go and start doing talking. And, you know, maybe I don't need to do the resilience film here because maybe there's already things happening. But I would like to know. I don't want to start doing things or doing the wrong things. I want to do the right things.
I think the resilience film will be even more interesting now that they're doing that, because I mean, they will be aware of the Welsh study.
But I'd like the names of the people to ask. Yeah, it'd be good to have the names of the people to whom I could then go round. And, you know, back to what you're saying, what we're planning on doing, I'd like some posters, if you could make some, that I could just put up in around the office or in physical things, a bit like I've left a Wave 70/30 brochure just in the coffee centre so people can pick it up. And I thought if I had a poster and I have a screening of it on a Saturday, which is what I'd like to do, we might get some more people from the health service joining in. Because one of the big problems everyone in Hertfordshire says is health do not talk to education. Education try and talk to health, but health won't engage with education.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the screening is even more important in view of this pending study for two reasons. Firstly, being aware of the ACE studies doesn't mean that a lot of people understand what to do about it. We found that all over the UK. Lots of people are talking ACEs, but very few of them know what to do in practice. Wales have got the Future Generations Act. They've got an ACE hub where lots of professionals come together and talk about ACEs, but that's all that's happening at the moment.
Yeah.
Scotland's just set up a hub, but Scotland's thinking more about what are we going to do, what are we going to do? Yeah. And there's another issue here, which is that everybody's talking about ACEs, and that's great. And trauma-informed care is brilliant because it ties in with a report we're about to launch about what's missing to help children who have been already hurt. But there's another element to ACEs which has to be made, and that is that what is anyone doing about preventing them happening in the first place? Because if all we do is talk about remedial stuff, ACE, trauma,
I agree.
We're missing a trick.
You're absolutely right.
I agree.
Well, look, you know, let's we'll have a look into that, and let's kind of liaise and maybe drop an email of the posters and things like that, and we'll get something off the ground because, you know, again, it's this planting of seeds. So thank you, chaps. I'm going to move on now to the.
Unmute yourself. Sandy Saunders here. Can I just come in?
Please do.
Fine, thanks. I've got 3 short points to make. You referred earlier to the fact that I had written to our MP, Steve Baker. In fact, today I received his reply, which was a typical politician's reply. The first 4 lines nearly acknowledged my email, but the rest of it, and I might explain for the benefit of others, that my contact with him followed the acid attacks, followed the announcement that they were going to restrict the availability of corrosive substances to under 18s, and I wrote and said, this won't work, this There's no evidence from anywhere in the world that such a strategy has ever worked. And it was far more to the point to treat the causes which led to someone wishing to do that sort of thing, rather than to wait until you've got a problem and then try and solve it, which it clearly is massively expensive and very difficult to achieve. As I say, the first 4 lines nearly acknowledge that I've written to him and that I referred to the way of trust. The remainder was a cut and paste telling me how proud he was of what the government was doing to tackle acid attacks.
Yeah,
which wasn't
very familiar, Andy.
So that was very disappointing. Secondly, I don't know if folk. Go on.
Just on that one, I really, you're absolutely what's the very spot on. I, in a previous life, actually worked in an MP's office doing those replies. And when you say cut and paste, that is literally what it is. It really is. It's how can we get rid of him? Copy paste. So, you know, you're absolutely right. It was a total copy paste. And I guess the challenge now, and the challenge that you in getting back to him and engaging is, what is it that he's interested in? What is it that's going to make him just pass it on to his copy paste team?
I can answer the question as to what he's interested in, because he is the lead person on the team deciding what to do if we get no deal. If we exit with no deal, what's the plan? He's the lead person in that team, so that's what he's concerned about. My second point was, I don't know if folk are aware that the Department of Education currently has a consultation out about revising the subjects to be taught, the guidance which is given to schools as to the subjects to be taught in relationships as part of PSHE. Now, clearly they're talking about, you know, partnerships and so on, but in my response, which has to be in by the 14th of this month, so there's still time for others to get on board if they want to, but in my response, I shall be shoehorning into the answer on the secondary education part the fact that there should be some teaching about the relationships, dealing with conflict, dealing with stress, dealing with relationships with young children which they will encounter, and their partners when they will encounter, and how to manage relationships to minimize stress and to minimize the circumstances in which damage to children may occur. So clearly that's not actually what they're looking for, and it's not actually what they'll take any notice of, but it just gets the message to a different group of people, so slightly under their radar.
Absolutely, and please do by all means share with us on perhaps the Facebook group that consultation, because that sounds very interesting.
Okay, and the third point is Jan was at a meeting at the weekend and she met someone who had been successful in actually getting in front of Steve Baker and asking him some very pointed questions about a local issue which is going on here at the moment. And so we are on to him, and I hope if we're successful, he might be another and an active and effective ambassador.
We're going to use him as a Trojan horse.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Trojan horse, very, very sensible. I would say one thing, you're absolutely right about the Brexit. I'm reading a book at the moment on Brexit and how involved Steve Baker was. So, you know, here it is. This is something new and different, and where Britain can be very, very exceptional. So, you know, if that's the language he's talking, then, you know, it may be that's the language you talk to him in. That's the sort of thing that he might respond to.
Fair enough. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Very active, guys. I'm going to quickly plough on because I know you guys have all got a lot to say, and the rest of the call is essentially over to you. So I'm going to put up this screen, which hopefully you can all see now. Can you all see that nice and clearly, the plans for 2018? Other than Alex, who's unfortunately on his. People see that?
Yeah. Yep.
I've got to be like those presenters that say, "I didn't hear you." Okay, this is a compilation that we created from our last call last month. So these are the kind of key goals that that we came up with. Actually, you guys came up with most of these, and we've put them together. Sarah's put them together beautifully. You see there, we've got at the top a sort of kind of overarching mission statement: a UK-wide shift in preventing harm to children before it happens will only succeed in MPs in the House of Commons champion it. I guess that's the kind of key thing that certainly I'm focusing on. So what we want to do now is we want to ask some questions. We want to turn it over to you and say, look, you know, what is it that you want to do with the rest of this call? How do you want to lead the rest of this call? We've got questions here: the who's, the what's, the whys. What can we achieve? What do you want to do? Who do you want to engage? But I want you guys to really drive this. It might be about different plans, different angles. It might be about different actions. So it's really over to you now. And as we sent these questions out, you may have different ones to lead us on this call.
Yes, Sam, hi, it's Linda here. I have a big ambition, really, and that would be to get the head of public mental health to sign up to this.
What a goal. I love how brave it is. I love how big it is.
Well, it's not really, Sam, because I've already bent his ear about it. It's
you've got
you know him. I think Anthula knows him, Gregor Henderson.
Yes. George knows him quite well.
Well, look, that
George knows.
So here,
because I think a lot of the driving is going to come from public health.
Yes.
Because they're the ones who set primary prevention strategies.
That's right.
You know, it's no good talking to the health services because they're a reactive service. You've got to talk to a service that's commissioned to do primary prevention.
Yeah.
So here's a question. I mean, that's just an amazing goal. And here I put up on the screen one of our questions. Who do you want to bring into the campaign?
Gregor Henderson.
Because there's more almost to, you know, bringing someone in, getting someone fired up. It's a big thing, isn't it? To actually really get someone fired up about something.
What he wants is evidence. So why don't we all write to him as ambassadors? You pull all the evidence together and let's lobby him in one big relentless hit.
That's a fantastic idea.
Linda, what a nice idea. What do other people think about that? I love it. What do other people think about that? Who's that? Is that Anthony?
Yes, it is.
Got some.
Sorry.
Anthony, so what do you think?
Yeah, I'll chip in wherever I can with that idea. We need to all flex our muscles and come from all angles. Then, yeah, by all means.
That sounds really good. Who else is thinking?
Yeah, I'm up for that. I think why not? God, did I just shout then? Why don't we have like a little, I don't know, generic email and or letter, and then we just fit it purpose to where we live.
Yeah. So
we sort of stay along the same lines.
So Anthula's just saying something. So we've got people here who are willing. What we need to do is we need to figure out how. It might be something like pasting it on a Facebook group so that we can all engage, or making some commitments here. But Anthula's just made a point, which is, sorry, by the way, someone's got some music playing and it's a bit loud.
Go on mute. Star 6.
Thank you very much. That's fixed it. Anthula's asked a good question. What was your?
Yeah, we've got masses of evidence. What exactly do we need to be giving him? Has he made a specific request?
What's going to influence him?
Linda, what does he want in particular? Could we narrow it down a bit?
Well, the thing is, the meeting that we had with him was about a different subject. It was about early assessment pathways, so that kids weren't being labelled as having mental health problems when perhaps they were bereaved or being abused. It was it was about writing an early assessment pathway. So it wasn't really about WAVE at that meeting, but I do this public health thing, you know, of making every contact count. So whenever I get someone, I put them in a corner and don't let them go till I've bent their ear. So I said to him, why aren't you working on, you know, ACEs and attachment and parenting? And he said, they call them the PHOFs, or we call them the FOFs, public health outcomes.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to be really impactful for him? I love your idea of getting in touch.
Well, we need a FOF. We need you need a public health outcome framework that everybody has to, you know, show a target and match a target, and then they get benchmarked against everywhere else in England, or it's slightly different in Wales and Northern Ireland and Scotland.
And if
you can compare how.
And if
if you want a FOF, you have to provide the evidence, because what they did was they took 300 topics and they chose 60 of them that had the best evidence, where you could show a measure of impact if you brought it in. So we haven't got any public health outcome frameworks around parental mental health or around attachment, and we need them, because then everybody will have to do the work and everybody will be measured on it.
So what do you think would be most, if this guy he's a guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like this guy, we should not presume, if this guy receives a load of letters from us, emails, tweets, letters, what in content wise, what do you think is going to be powerful?
I think, have you seen the Primary Prevention Mental Health Concordat published by Public Health England?
I can't.
Sorry, Primary Prevention Health Concord. No.
Concordat, no.
No, Concordat, the Primary Prevention Mental Health Concordat by Public Health England, and there's 6 things in there, and again they chose the 6 that had the most evidence. So one of them is about reducing suicide by having workplace mental health support, and addressing debt was another one. And there's only 6 key factors in there for primary prevention, and none of them are the early years, and we should be in there as the first one. I'll see.
Hello?
If I can find you the link. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep, you're back.
You need to ask him, what does he need for what does he need for primary prevention to be in this mental health concordat? Yeah. What evidence does he need?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, let's be really open and say, what do you need from us? Guys, what do you think? This sounds like a really interesting thing to do.
So Linda, that's fantastic. Thank you. That's really helpful. George is coming back from Scotland tonight. I'm going to be sitting him down and talking to him about this.
Yep. And shall we put in place some actions in terms of, you know, we've got some people willing to write, but we want to first ask him what it is he wants. I mean, is that something that you're planning to just bend his ear and say, what is it that you need from us, or how do you see this looking?
No, I did already bend his ear, and he just said there has to be enough evidence for it to happen. So if you have a look at that link that I've just sent you, that paper has the 6 topics that they chose and the evidence that shows that they work. So I think somebody just needs to say, you know, all these things that you're talking about, which are so far downstream, you're not looking at what we could be doing, and here's the evidence for it.
Yeah.
If George knows him, I can't see it'll be a problem.
All right, let me talk to George when he comes back. Yeah.
Okay. So the action there is that Anthula, you're gonna have a conversation with George, and then we're gonna share this back out to you guys.
Yeah.
So that you can be passing this around, and sending in emails. That sounds great. That sounds really good. Yeah. I encourage people to talk on the Facebook group about that, particularly to discuss it, to agree to send it, to, you know, come up with things and put things in the diary so that you know, it's rolling, it's moving.
Can I say something?
Please.
It's Janice. So I think, Linda, this is your daily work, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I just think that you're so commendable to be doing this in the evenings with equal passion to what you obviously also do during the day, because I heard somebody on one of these calls a few months ago saying that after she'd done a day of really at the coalface, she found these calls quite disheartening. I don't mean tonight's, because I think tonight's is heartening, but I do think that it's a terrific thing that you're doing it in your off duty as well as your on duty. Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Absolutely. As I say, guys, this is your call. So really, whoever wants to kind of pitch in, share an idea.
Just a quick inquiry. Is Rosemary Croft on the call?
No.
Have we got Rosemary? I don't think we do.
So I'm just, Mick, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, mate. I've just made a note that Rosemary Croft is a new ambassador, isn't she? And she's from Medway. So I was just thinking, as far as, for me, just trying to join some dots up, focus on relationship building. I want to revisit Andy Willits, who's quite a head honcho in Medway Council, and that's really where my head is, really, just to laser in and get that accountability in my back pocket. So Mick, just want to again acknowledge you publicly for stepping to the plate and making the first action happen. So thank you. And Rosemary Croft, I wouldn't mind her details if someone's got it.
Anthony, can I just check that there's not two Rosemary Crofts? Because I've got a friend who's a retired GP mental health commissioner in Berkshire who lives in the next street to me, who I've brought in, and I'm not sure that it was accidentally put that she's in Medway.
That's an interesting question. Right, we have potentially an intruder, Rosemary Croft, who doesn't live in Medway at all. Could you check that with Sarah, Linda? I think she'd know.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's a really strong possibility. But Anthony, in terms of bringing in new people, absolutely. I know there are various meetings to set up there. I'm just going to flick through a few more of these questions to kind of share with you guys maybe some steer, and particularly. I know we've got people on like Martha and people on like Rob. You know, guys, please do anything that you see that sparks a thought. Here's one: is what are the steps towards your goals? We've got some steps for Linda's very, very exciting suggestion there. Anyone thinking in terms of steps, in terms of next steps?
I think for me, it is just a step. I mean, not wanting to be an Eeyore, but it is just really just tipping me, getting my toe back in the water, getting the letter writing, just to get me juices flowing a little bit. Really, I think, like it was mentioned earlier on, sometimes when you've had a skinful of child protection and child abuse and so forth, when you've got your work hat on, then sometimes you can get a little bit depleted. So it's just to find a way to re-energize the old brain cells and then just get back on the horse. And
is there something? Is there something, Anthony, between what your experience and what Janice was just saying about how, if you're really living this stuff and you're really putting your all into, I know, the teenagers you work with, do you think that's slowing you down, or?
I think so. I think I'll spend a lot of time, all my time really, just doing it really. No different than Rob really, as far as the client group that he's working with. yeah, I get a lot of aces sitting in front of me, and you know, whether you want to admit it or not, it can be quite emotionally consuming, and you just feel tired. So it's just really, yeah, looking after yourself. Really, I'm in a phase of just trying to look after my own head, just to just get back on the horse, really. And I know that's what it is for me, just to have that oomph, just to have the conversations, make the relationships,
Rob,
sharpen me sword, as they say.
Rob, we've chatted a few times recently, and you were telling me that to an extent you kind of really finding the ACEs conversation powerful, actually feeding into your work.
You've got to imagine that the client group that I deal with are already probably some of the most vulnerabilist in our communities. You're dealing with addictions at every sort of level. So, and also because my caseload in particular is mostly homelessness, repeat crimes, leaving prison. So a very unstable group already. So if you're in that position, I won't say the words I normally use, but there's a position when you're at rock bottom, the only way is up. But they need to see that the only way is up. And some of that is to try and make sense of how they get there, because most people become addicted to things, or they become alcoholics, is because they're showering the pain that they feel. It feels better to be off your face than it feels to be you know, a part of a community. They're already shunned as a community. One of the great things about not necessarily the community I live in, but more of the city where I work, is it's like the community, the city has opened its arms. The PCT is willing to work alongside the addiction services. So we're trying to do some dual diagnosis work around the mental health. What I find when I have this person sat in front of me, now I also have a lot of vulnerable parents who are trying to make sense in that. They talk to me about how I've got a lady she's in court for the 7th time because her son won't go to school. But the reason her son doesn't go to school is because his mother's an addict and she's in treatment. So he's getting bullied, but for somewhere along the way, the communications fell apart.
And how do you feel, Rob? How do you feel that you're working with this mum who's living this life that's very difficult at the moment? How do you feel that's playing into, and how do you feel that's engaging with your 70/30 stuff?
She was what I wrote about when I sort of sent and we spoke about, because she was the mother who I had to make her stop feeling guilty. She was allowing the behaviors happen in the home because she was feeling guilty for what she did. I'm the addict, so obviously all this is my fault. Yeah. Well, actually, you messed up and you made a few bad choices, and you can repair this. No idea what's happening there. Someone with a thin whistle.
Oh, that works. I've just muted caller 02, which I think is. Right, that's done it.
Is that a canary?
That's it. That's it, guys. I'm just going to turn the camera on here, and I'm going to show you something. So let's have a look.
Haircut.
For my new haircut. Horrify a few more people. Sorry, everyone. Look, this is something that Anthula showed me. This is the Times, the Sunday Times, and this is Sunday. 2 days ago, Sunday. This. Get a bit closer. Have a look. This is a full-page interview, and I'm going to, as Anthula says, zoom in with Member of Parliament. Anyone recognise? Anyone? Quickly, get a biscuit. Caroline Flint, one of the real rising stars in the Blair years of the Labour Party, a very, very strong new MP. I'm just going to read you a few things from this, because I think it Anthony, you're talking about how, and I think it may be unfair in saying for for a few months now you've been feeling a bit in the doldrums, and you're talking about how the engagement that you're having with people who are leading these really heavy lives, there's a lot of weight in that. So, and then Linda's talking about, and Janice is talking about the kind of how it ties in with both with 70/30 and with kind of a council level and finding the right people. This is an MP who could well be, fingers crossed, a major figure in a future Labour Party. Perhaps if the Blairites come back. She says, and this is a one-to-one interview. She says she was born to a 17-year-old single mother. 2 years later, her mother married a man. At 10, Caroline stumbled into adoption papers, realizing that she had been adopted. Her mother moved to Lancashire and struggled with alcoholism. Caroline Flint remained in London, living with a family friend. Her grandparents had died when she was 16. She got into a lot of fights with her mother, pouring away the drinks, and her mother died of liver failure at 45. And I think it goes on to say that she then, Caroline, became a very young mother with a man who became aggressive towards her, and then became a single mother to escape from that violence. I'm reading verbatim here. The relationship ended with Flint bringing charges of violent disorder. What's my point? My point is all this stuff ties in. It really it's so tied together. It's about what Anthila was saying about these seeds. That she could have been Rob. She could have been one of your. She was on benefits for a while as well because she left this guy.
Completely, and that's the thing. One of the main things that I bring up is I do this vision. I use my CBT experiences, and we do a plan. This is who you are. This is what's going on in your life. But we talk, and I get them to choose the aces. Why would I? If I do a drawing of her future, that's my decision of what her life should look like. So I try to get them to have a picture, and they do the drawing. And my job is to sort of guide her in the right direction. But you'd be surprised. A lot of people will pick more aces than what I will pick.
Yeah.
They will see more pictures of bad things, but then it enables me. The good thing about Endeavour again is my job role stays the same, but we're being two-peed into a new company, EDP. But the doorways of opportunities are massive, and this is including employment, including education, including employment within community. Just because you've had an addiction, there's a lot of the community signed up to this CV that people can get a regular influx of employees who, as long as they're honest about their addictions and they're working towards recovery, they'll get a job. It's great. But a lot of the work I'm doing is I do work with child in need as well. So I go to a lot of the child in need meetings. I've gone to these meetings and they're happy with the ACE work that I'm doing. So it's staying. So it's not being infringed by anybody else.
And you're lucky in that. I think that I know you're doing amazing stuff, but you're also, finding people who are giving this a chance and who are open, people who are open to good ideas, to learning how to do things better. This call is running towards 8 o'clock, and we very deliberately very much loosened this to make it your call. And I think if I can sort of suggest, what's come out here is a real sort of overlap between the actual sort of machinery of local government and the real human side. Now I know there's a lot of campaigning as well. Sarah's talking about resilience, and I know that various people have been screening this amazing film. Is there any? Do people want to feed in from that angle, from the kind of community angle, from the, I hope this is sparking lots of ideas for people. I hope this is making people think, oh, I could do that, or I'm going to do this. Does anyone want to kind of throw in, particularly from that community angle, from that sort of on my street, in my, you know, working club, whatever it is? Anyone want to throw in? It's just like at the end of a lecture where the lecturer says, has anyone got any questions? And the students say, don't anyone ask a question. We'll get on at 8 o'clock. Does anyone want to throw in anything that's come out of all this?
Could I just say I apologise for only just joining you. I don't quite know where the time went, and I was busy doing other stuff, and suddenly remembered the call today. So I've obviously missed a very interesting discussion.
Good to have you far away.
I would just say that, you know, that from my point of view, what I think it's really critical to talk to anybody who's willing to listen about these issues that we're all concerned about, and to use any opportunity that presents itself.
Yeah.
And there'll be different communities. I mean, communities are different, and obviously they you know, some of us live in urban communities, some of us live in rural communities, and so on. So connections and relationships are different, and it's about finding people who are willing to listen to you, I guess.
There's a real human side to it, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to mention, what about the children? The charity that I'm involved with has its conference on the 8th of March, and I'm very pleased that we have a WAVE representative coming as a delegate. And I just really wanted to say we would be more than happy to include flyers from 7030 in our conference pack. It's Daphne who's coming, and I'm not quite sure where she fits in the WAVE in WAVE. So could I just mention that now? And I'll get back to you by email or something.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad that I know that Sarah was mentioning that someone would come along, and I'm really glad that that Daphne's signed up. And yeah, drop us an email. We'll supply whatever's useful. Really looking forward to that. And also, I just say, you know, Lydia, you know, you remind me on this call of something that someone said to me years and years ago, that if you want to create, you know, if you want to change the world, change your street. And I know it's a cliche, but it's that sort of, I know it's a horrible cliche. I apologise to everyone, but there is something in it that, you know, some things are very big, and you know, Caroline Flint goes on to be a huge political figure, and Linda's kind of got the ear of key people, and yeah, for others it will be a small conversation that will, you know, go somewhere. It'll turn up years later. I'll give you a really nice little example. We're setting up an APPG. We're being very quiet about this because it's going to be a very different kind of thing and not a big fanfare kind of an event, but it's going to be a sort of internal chance to really support progressive thinking in early years and 7030 in Parliament. And one of the guys that George wrote to, who's now one of the co-chairs, George wrote to him, just "Dear MP," you know, standard letter, and he wrote back and he said, "Good to hear from you, George." And he said, "Have I met him?" He looked back and said, "He had a chat when he was a doctor." And now he's an MP, and now he's co-chairing a group set up in Parliament with us, through you guys and through our collective work. It's, you know, so yeah.
A comment made. I was watching. I'm one of these sad people who watches the parliamentary TV channel, and the debate about with Sharon Hodgson when she spoke about having had a stillborn child.
Yeah.
It was a debate instigated by Tim Loughton. Anyway, cut a very long story short, one of her colleagues, one of Sharon Hodgson's Labour colleagues, said people sometimes forget that MPs have similar lives to the rest of society.
Yeah.
You know, they will have had similar experiences, and I think that I've been reflecting on that over the last few days, really, because I think unfortunately we tend to sort of put politicians in a bit of a unique position and think that but actually they've had similar experiences to the majority of us. They will have had good times and bad times and not always done the right thing and so on and so forth. They're human beings at the end of the day, and I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah.
You know, it's about tapping into those feelings, emotions, and encouraging them to connect, really.
Exactly. That we talk human to a human.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good. I think it's a really good point to end the call.
I mean, I have my own local MP is not a very responsive MP. It made me think I shouldn't be so negative about him. You know, I don't know him as a person, and you know, I haven't met him once, and that's about it. But you know, he will have the views that he has for all sorts of reasons, and I shouldn't be so negative. I should be positive about him.
Yeah, and absolutely. And as we were saying with Andy earlier, you know, some people, Anthula called someone the other day, Tory MP, answered the phone himself. He's a colonel something, and he's
ex-army.
Yeah, ex-army. He's like, what do you want? Well, that doesn't sound very sensible. Yeah, and he's coming from his own life, and, you know. But we really have to have a country where people have heard of ACEs and people have heard of prevention, and that means people who are retired colonels, and that means people who aren't going to, you know, fight for it. But joining
the military gives people who have no sense of belonging a sense of belonging, and you know, it's interesting to look at the backgrounds of many young people who go into the military, and I think there's more empathy or understanding for ACEs, to use a sort of jargon, than we maybe expect them to.
That's a very fair comment. Very fair comment, Lydia. Guys, I'm going to have to be fair to you guys and close the call, much as I'd like to keep it going. I hope this has been a good call for you. I hope you found the relatively free reins of you know, let's shape this call our way. I think there's been some interesting things come out of it. I'd be very happy to hear from anyone who wants to feed in for the next call. We may have a speaker, but I'm very open to shaping calls that ultimately give people things to think about, things to take away, things to act on. Because really this is all about action. You know, this is a group where people are doing amazing things. Happy to hear from you guys. Keep it up. You're all brilliant. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
And my apologies for being late.
Not at all. Not at all. Don't resign us.
Write that down.
About it.